Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this webinar of VK Makelaars en Taxateurs. Tonight we're going to talk about the purchase of a home in the Netherlands. And of course, there is a lot to say about it also in today's market. Feel free to follow and I will give you a lot of information, tips and tricks. And of course, also some advice, of course, and some information about the services that we can offer in this context. The first thing I will do is to speak a little bit of the team that we have at VK Makelaars and what we do exactly at what location. Who are we? We are, as we said already, we are a realtor and an appraiser, so a makelaar and a taxateur. And we are also a member of the association of VBO. That is important, of course, as we need to follow some specific rules that apply in the sector of realtors and appraisers. And as a result, you have a check on the quality of services that we offer as well. We are active since 2019, we have a lot of experience in the meantime. When we have also, of course, some people that are working with us that have more experience than starting in 2019. But we all came together, or we joined the company as of 2019. We have offices both in Haarlem and Amsterdam, so we can always help you in those specific cities, but also in the cities around. I come to that in a moment. And we have at the moment like 8 realtors, 8 colleagues that can help you. Of course, we have some support as well in other functions. Like taking photos, doing the styling of your home, some administration, financing, and so on and so on. But the realtors we have in the team are 8 at the moment, speaking different languages. We work following the principles of the 4 Ps, as we call it. That means we have a personal service, we have a proactive service, we are punctual, and we are precise as well. We believe those 4 Ps are very important. And we believe as well that by following those 4 Ps, we make a difference with the competitors around us in the market. So if you like a personal, proactive, punctual, and precise approach, then you're at the good address with VK Makelaars. It shows as well in our client ratings. We have a 4.9 out of 5. So that shows as well that the services that we offer, that they apply to the wishes of the clients that we have on today. As I just said, we have 2 offices, Amsterdam and Haarlem, but it doesn't mean that we cannot offer our services somewhere else. I have to say, and that's something we will discuss a little bit more in detail totally in the end of the conversation, but we have like different services that we offer. Normally we give like the full service to say, and that we offer in Amsterdam, in Haarlem, and 30-minute drive away from that cities. If you want us to help you in other cities in the Randstad or even in the total of the Netherlands, that is possible. The only difference will be that we don't come to the viewings together with you. And of course, then another rate applies as well if we don't have to make the commute. Yeah, but we come to that a little bit later. So focus on Amsterdam and Haarlem, 30 minutes drive around. If you really like to help you or us to help you with finding a place a little bit further, that is possible as well. But then some other conditions will apply. Yeah. We are a realtor. That means that we help people with the purchase of a home. We also help people with selling their houses, not only for expats, also for Dutch people. We help with rent assistance, and we help also the landlords of renting out the premises with letting. The last topic that is important is the valuation, as I said before. That's something we offer as a separate service, so you can always request that as well if that is needed. And of course, that's something I forgot, but we also do the property management. If you already have a portfolio or you will start building your portfolio and you need some help with the management of that, we can help you with that as well. The specific conditions that apply for that, you can find them on our website, or you can just give us a call and we will go a little bit more in detail. Myself, I'm Philip Albrecht. I was born in Belgium. I did studies of law did a master in real estate to also educate myself a little bit on the financial part of the real estate market. I'm an RICS member, and I'm also certified as a real estate agent and a real estate manager in Belgium. I have more than 15 years of experience in the real estate, also in an international context, so I can always compare a little bit. And yeah, I live now in the Netherlands together with my wife and my daughter. And yeah, it's a very good place to stay. I believe you will think that as well. That's the reason why you're in this webinar, of course. These are my colleagues. Yeah, we have different colleagues, as you see. I'm not going to give you all the names, but if you like to have some more information about my colleagues, you can always visit the website, and there you find what is their name, what they do, what they like, and also what is their favorite sport, I believe. So everybody has maybe a little bit of a specialty, for sure, also in the languages that they speak. So we try to offer a good service to everybody. And of course, if you like to be helped in your native language, is it Spanish, is it French, is it English, we will refer you to the right person to assist you. The first topic we're going to discuss today is the topic of buying or renting a place. Very interesting always to make that decision and to see, okay, I'm in the market looking for a place to stay, but do I need to rent now or to buy? What are the pros and what are the cons? To start with, if you rent, of course, that's always flexible. You can go to a place and maybe you say, yeah, I thought I would really like the location, but now I'm living there and then I see some things that I don't like, or the opposite can also be true, that you say, I'm not 100% sure, but now I'm living there and I really like it. So with renting a place, of course, you can get to know the surroundings and the location a little bit better and then make a final decision afterwards. The good thing is as well that you have low or no maintenance costs or management of the building. That's something, of course, the landlord will do. As I just said, he needs to take care of the property management. So that's a good thing being a tenant. You don't have to pay too much cost for that, and you don't need to take care of all the hassle. The property is insured by the landlord as well. That's also a good thing. Yeah, of course, if you have positive points, there are always some negative points as well. You are not 100% guaranteed to stay forever. That depends on your contract as well and on the intentions of the landlord. Of course, you have some tenant protection, but it's not 100% guaranteed. The rent will be adapted, and most of the time that will be on a yearly basis. It also depends on your contract and the law that applies, but that is quite common. And of course, what is the major difference, of course, is that you don't build any equity with renting. It's more like a cost and a permanent cost, but you don't build up your equity yourself. The equity is built up by the landlord, of course, to which you are paying your rent at that moment. And that's, of course, the first positive point in buying a place. You can build up some equity. It's like a saving, but then in a property. But yeah, it's very interesting. And the graphs will show as well that over time, if you invest some money in real estate, then you will see it's good as savings, as the risk on really devaluation of property prices is very limited, for sure, in countries like in the Western Europe part and like in the Netherlands. Of course, you are also able to adapt everything to your own wishes. You're your own boss. It's your place, it's your house, it's your property, so you can do whatever you like. And of course, you also have the opportunity to deduct the interest on the mortgage that you're paying. So that's very good. You have your salary, you have some interest rate that you can deduct, and as a result, you will pay less taxes. You will be able as well to have a fixed monthly installment instead of like rent that can be adapted. If you have a loan with a fixed interest rate for a certain number of years, then you can somewhere freeze the amount and always be sure that you can pay the amount as you know exactly what will be the installments from now until the end of your mortgage payments. Of course, not everything comes for free. You will have to pay some maintenance costs, do the property management. That's what I said before. You will also have to pay some taxes being the owner of a property renting out. Of course, you also have the risk of the value of the property. As I said, on the long term, that's not a big risk. Of course, on the short term, we always note that the market goes up and down. So at a certain moment, there can be a down in the market. And if you need to sell for some reason, really at that moment, you need to sell the property, yeah, then you have a risk, of course, that you don't recuperate the money that you put in the property, or that you don't really create added value. That's possible as well. But again, that's the difference between short-term investment and long-term investment. If you look at the long term, then a property is always considered, and numbers show as well, as a good investment. Yeah. So to buy or to rent, some positive points, some negative points. I try to explain also with a little example over here. We have an apartment. I just take it as an example, so don't get fixated on the exact numbers, but it is of course a little bit in line what you can expect with a property like that. You have a purchase price over here for the property that we're looking at of 600,000 euros, and you're paying a rently installment as a rent of 1,900 euros a month. Yeah. If we then see what is the difference between buying and renting, then we see, yeah, with the rent, of course, you pay the cost of 1,900 euros. That's the rent that we need to pay every month. And as I said, maybe in some years we even pay more, as it will likely be indexed at a certain moment. Then we have a mortgage as well, about 3.25% on the 600,000 as a purchase price that we see and that we bought the property. Of course, that results in a monthly payment. Here we see the gross monthly payment is 2,600 euros. Of course, you also have some benefits that you will not have to pay the total of the mortgage amount as a cost, because you will have also, for example, the interest rebate that you have as well. As I just said, that you can deduct the interest rate from your salary. So we see on this example, you have a net monthly payment of 2,031 euros. If you compare that to the 1,900 and the 2,031, then you still see when you buy a property, you pay 131 euros more on a month. So yeah, then you say maybe that's not the best solution to do. But as I said before, and that's the next line that you see, you build up some equity with a mortgage, 1,670 euros that you gain every month. And of course, we also had some costs. That's what we said before as well. So you will have to pay 500 euros of costs. Yeah. As a result, and that's then the total balance after the ins and outs, you see that building up the equity is the main driver for buying a property. And then we have a profit of around 1,039 euros here in this example, just by buying a property instead of renting a property. Yeah. Of course, there are some different variables that we took in this example. If you really are interested to look at a specific property, then we can always help you with that and do the same calculation and the same exercise. But important to see over here is that if you rent, of course, you are flexible, but if you buy, you build up equity. And still on today with mortgage interest rates around 3.25% or even a little bit higher, sometimes depending on the conditions that you take, you see that it can be profitable in the end to buy instead of renting. That's the example that I wanted to give about buying a property compared to renting a property. And if we then go to see into the market today, to the property market in general, and I go a little bit more in depth on the numbers that we see over there, then I want to start with this first graph, and that's what I said before, and it shows as well very clearly on the screen. If you see on the screen, then you see, it's clear that house or the prices of the houses rose. If you compare 1995, until now, then you see a steep increase of housing prices. Of course, you always need to take into account inflation, and that's another graph that I don't put in the presentation, but you also see that even with inflation corrected, then property markets are doing well. What I always said is that at a certain moment in time, it can always be that you have a slight dip in the prices. You see that here as well, around 2010, 2015, and that was still the result about how properties were financed in the Netherlands with more than 100%, and also the fact, of course, that we had a real bank problem in 2008, 2009. So as a result, we had a decrease in prices between 2010 to 2015, but then afterwards the market picked up again, and it went higher than ever before. If you compare 2010 on the graph and 2021 or 2022, then you see if you didn't sell your house, then nothing was going on, because you have an increase in prices that is quite phenomenal, to say, in the market. And then if you go to have a look at Q1 2022, what do we see then in specific on the numbers? On the general numbers, we see that the number of houses that are sold are still lower than the years before, minus 19%. We see also that the average housing price is quite high at the moment, 428,000 as an average asking price or average purchase price. That is quite a significant number. And we see that houses get sold quite fast at 24 days. That's still very fast between putting everything online and then having an agreement and signing the purchase contract. What I have to say is, and you see that as well, the first numbers that I gave you are the existing houses. The second numbers that I give you now are the new builds. Very important to take that into account. We have a real estate market or a property market in the Netherlands, but there is a significant difference between existing houses and new builds. What I see here in the numbers is that for the new builds, even there were less houses that were sold. Of course, that's in percentage because the absolute numbers are higher in the existing market. We see there that the average purchase price is a little bit higher than in the existing market. Instead of 428,000, a new build will cost 466,500. I have to say that these prices are not calculated totally in the same way. We will come to that in a minute as well. But a new build price is calculated different, has to do with purchase cost, has to do with VAT and some other stuff. So if you want to have some more information on that, you can follow a webinar that we will give a little bit later in the year. So you can follow our socials and our website, or you can take contact with us and we like to explain everything in detail with you. But the process of a new build and also the way the purchase price is calculated is a little bit different. And then we see that in one quarter, when new builds come to the market, then 75% of that project is sold, and it takes a little bit longer for the rest. But I don't see a lot of projects where they don't sell every house or every unit. If we go a little bit more in detail in the Amsterdam market, then we see that the number of houses that are sold over there are plus 13% in the first quarter. So that's a little bit different than the total of the market. Average purchase price is higher on average 533,000 compared to 400 something. And that's also normal. Amsterdam is the number one market to say in the Netherlands. So there the prices will always be a little bit higher if you compare them in total and also in price per square meter. And if you go then to the price per square meter, then we see as well, again over there, even in Q1, and we compare that on a year-to-year base, then we see the prices went up with 14%. However, if we compare that on a quarterly base, then you see it's minus 2.4%. What you will see Q1, and also in the meantime, we received some previews on the Q2 figures, is that the prices are somewhere stabilized at the moment. It all has to do with the interest rates. We will come to that in a moment as well to have a little bit more look in detail. But the interest rates went up quite fast beginning of this year. And as a result, we see that the prices, they don't go steep up anymore, as we saw in the other graph that we just showed, but they are somewhere stabilized and they keep at the same level. Depending on the type of houses that are sold in that quarter, we come a little bit lower or a little bit higher, but it's always around the same number. Yeah. And then we see sales prices still at 24 days. What we expect going forward is that the prices will stabilize, but that also the sales periods will take a little bit longer. And that is a result of the fact that some people that, for example, bought a new build, but also need to finance with selling their own house, that they want to be sure and that they put their house already on the market. So there are more houses on the market. And as a result, as almost the same amount of people are looking, or maybe a little bit less, because of financing is more expensive at the moment, you will see that sales periods will take a little bit longer. Still, what we say always, 24 days, maybe it will be then on average at a certain moment, 28 days or even 30, but still it's a short period. When you make an offer as well, everything goes very fast. So I will come to that in the buying process, but be sure that you have made your homework before you start the process, because there is always a little bit of time pressure, so important to make your homework. So a good thing as well that you're already following this webinar. What are then the drivers of the real estate market and the drivers of the real estate prices? Because we have the market figures on today, but what do we expect for the market to do going forward this year, but also next year? What we see is the offer of or supply, the offer and demand in the market. And then we have two markets, as I said, from existing and new builds. The existing properties, what we see is that, of course, there are the properties that are on the market, and that is what it is. As I just said, we see that there are more houses now for sale for the reason that I just said. People bought a new place and they want to be sure that they can finance, so they put their house that they have at the moment where they are the owner of, they put it on the market as well already. So in the existing market, we see a little bit more offer in the market. On the new build side, we see a little bit the opposite. And then you can see the reasons for that as well in the last bullet point. For example, the material costs are going up. We also see a problem with sustainability measures around stikstof, we call it in Dutch. There we see a problem with the permits for the different projects of the new builds. And we see also that there are not too many people that before worked in the new build sector really to construct the houses, that due to Corona, due to war in Ukraine, and due to some other reasons as well, that they are not in the Netherlands on today. And as a result, developers don't find the right people to build all those projects they like to build. So taking all of this into account, we see that on today, and it's expected for 2022, that we will have around 60,000 new builds coming on the market, but we need at least 100,000 every year. And that's a little bit the calculation that some experts made, that the government made as well. In 10 years, we need to build 1 million houses. So it means 100,000 houses every year, just for the demand that is in the market or will come into the market due to the growth of the population and the households. And we see that on today, we can only build 60,000. Last year, it was 70,000. So that is a little bit of a problem. Of course, if the offer stays low and the demand is the same or even growing, then of course it will have an influence on prices, and it means it pushes the prices up. The same applies for the fiscal benefits. We have a transfer tax that is normally 2% if you go to live in the property yourself. If you are below 35 and you buy a house that is cheaper than 400,000 euros, then you can be exempted from transfer taxes if you go to live in that property. If you are an investor, then you will need to take into account that you need to pay 8%. I believe even that the government will decide to make it 9% for next year. And also you need to see if you can buy and rent it out, because in some municipalities, they have the right to say for the first like 4 years, with a maximum of 5 years, you need to live in the property yourself. Otherwise, it is not allowed, and you will have to pay a lot of penalties on that. So as an investor, be careful, because there are a lot of rules to follow at the moment. Another part is the tax rebate. I just said that the interest on your mortgage, you can deduct it from the salary, and then you will be taxed after that. So it means that you will pay less taxes in total. That's a good thing. The overvalue of your house, still on today, the overvalue is totally exempted. You don't have to pay any transfer tax on that. So that means, or other taxes on that. So that means that when you buy a property and when prices go up and you sell it again, then you can use the total of that amount to buy another property in the market. Of course, that's also one of the reasons why the previous years the prices went up, because people that had a house, of course, were able to put that into a new house that they were looking at. As a result, the prices went up quite fast, and it was also difficult for starters to jump into the market. The last thing is the U-Bolt-on. That's not that important for you, but if you are a parent and you gave as a parent to your children like an amount of around 120,000 euros, something like that, it could be exempted from taxes if the children invested this in properties. Now it's already decreased the total amount that you can use to do that, and it will be totally cancelled going forward. So all those things had an important influence on the prices, and still have that on today with, as I said, the U-Bolt-on that is going to be cancelled. But of course, then we come to number or bullet 3, and that's the mortgage and the interest rates on the mortgage, which is the most important cost of financing, unless you have everything in cash, of course, or in savings in your account. The mortgage interest rates, they went up quite fast. We will see some numbers in a minute, but yeah, they are more than doubled since the end of 2021. And of course, that has an influence on prices. The reason I just mentioned before, that prices maybe go up a little bit or somewhere are at a certain level at the moment and keep on that level, but they don't go up with 10% or 20% anymore like they did last couple of months and years, just because of the fact that, yeah, people need to pay more when they finance with a mortgage. Material costs, I explained already. And then, of course, you have some alternatives as well, and that's the rental market where we started with, or other housing solutions. Of course, there are some housing solutions where you cannot live permanent, or co-housing, or all those kind of solutions that are in the market. Not always that easy as well on today. We are now talking about the buying market, and there is a lot of competition. But for sure, in the rental market as well, there is really a lot of competition as well. So I explained this with an example, but you can take other examples, and often you will see that it's not a big advantage to stay in the rental market, as the prices over there are very high as well, because of the lack of supply that is also in that market normal, as we said, that the total number of places doesn't fit the total demand that there is in the market on today. And then we come to some market knowledge for you, interesting to know as well. As I said before, we have the new build or the existing houses. For the new build, the positive things is that you don't have to pay transfer tax. Of course, you don't have to pay transfer tax, you will have to pay VAT, but it's included in the asking price in total. What is also a good thing is that you don't need an appraisal for the property. So normally with an existing house, and we come to that in the buying process when we explain that, you will always need an appraisal for the mortgage. Otherwise, the bank will not grant you the mortgage. And it can be that the moment you make the offer that you're not 100% sure of the value of that property. With a new build, you're 100% sure. So if the bank says you can have a loan of 500,000, you buy a new build of 500,000, then you know you can finance it. Of course, there are some other costs with new builds. We come to that in a minute. The energy label of the new builds is quite good, of course. The developers need to follow some new rules on energy performance, not only following the market, also sometimes because of the necessity to obtain the permit. And as a result, often as well, the maintenance costs are low in those buildings. Of course, it's new, but also it's with better installations and better performing installations in general. You can always have your own finishing, so that's quite nice. When you go to an existing house, of course, you buy the property with a lot of things that are finished. In the meantime, you cannot always break it down unless it's really like a renovation property that you bought. With a new build, of course, you have the chance to make a lot of decisions, and you can finalize or finish the house totally as you wish to do yourself. Of course, we also have some negative points. That's always like that. We have the plus and we have the minus. You can have, or you will have probably double housing costs, and you're living in a property yourself and you need to pay there the mortgage or the rent. And the new build, you will already have to pay a part of the property when you buy it, and then gradually it will go up. And it takes some time, of course, to build the property. So in the meantime, you have a double housing cost. Around 1-2 years delivery time is not that crazy, so take that into account. It takes some time. Of course, the registration is also important, that you need to do that. We see a lot of competition for new builds, and you really need to get on that list with that specific project or with that specific developer. And it's not always that easy, and the developers can somewhere decide how they do that registration. And so it's not always first come, first served. Sometimes they can take other conditions into account as well. They are free to make or to define the system themselves. So sometimes it's not that easy to get on that listing. Of course, we can help you with that within our network. We can also give you some tips sometimes, but it's not always that easy. You don't have the viewings, you only have the plans of the project. So that's something you need to visualize yourself, how the project will look. In the past, we had a lot of like model apartments that you could visit before they started with the building. But now, as the market goes quite fast and quite well, they don't always have those model apartments anymore. And then, yeah, you need to use your imagination yourself based on the plans that you will receive. The negative thing as well is the price is the price. As I said, when mortgage rates go up, and they would go up even more in the future, then maybe there is something that will change over there. But on today, there is not that much space for negotiation. The price is the price, and you say yes, yeah, or somebody else will buy the property. Very important. The purchase process is different. So if you like to go forward with that, have a chat with us, or follow one of our next webinars, as I said. The mortgage offer needs to be longer than 6 months. That's very important, because between signing the purchase contract and then the start of the works, and the moment that you sign the transfer deed, it can take longer than 6 months. So it's very important to take that into account, and also to explain to your mortgage advisor or your bank that you need a mortgage offer for a new build, which has then specific conditions that apply. The purchase and the building contract, that's also something special. You will not have one purchase contract like you have with an existing building, but you will have a purchase contract for the land that you buy, and a building contract, of course, for the building that still needs to be constructed. Other purchase costs, as I just explained, if you want to have some more information, feel free to contact us. And also other payment terms that apply, also other guarantees that apply. Yeah, so it's not totally the same process. Take that into account. If you want to go forward with that, feel free to contact us, and we will share that information with you. Okay, then we had the difference between the new builds and the existing properties. Then we have also in the market of the existing properties, the different bidding systems that apply. So it's really like a little bit like a Dutch invention, we can say, and it all started, or most of it started in Amsterdam. You have the normal inschrijving or registration or subscription, as they call it. That's where you have a fixed deadline. Everybody has an equal chance. Of course, the seller can choose the best offer for him. You do a blind offer. You don't know what other people are putting on the table. And the seller can even decide at a certain moment, yeah, I don't like the offers that are on the table, so I will not sell at all. In the end, the best offer is agreed on by the seller, and he can take the decision on that, what is for him the best offer. It can be the best price, but it can also be for another reason. He takes into account the total price, but also all conditions that apply on the offers that he received. The second type that we saw a lot the last couple of years, and as it's called the Amsterdam bidding system, of course, we saw it a lot in Amsterdam, but we even saw it across the country. That's the Amsterdam bidding system, also called as type B. There you have a first bidder, and he can go into negotiation with the seller after the seller made a counter offer to the first bidder. There are no other negotiations going on, only with that first bidder, but the other people can still view the property, and the viewers can only make one offer. They will get a deadline as well. On that moment, they have to submit their offer. The seller will review, of course, all the offers, and the first bidder, if there is not any solution yet or not any agreement yet, can still make a last and best offer at the moment that the seller is reviewing all the offers that he received. And then the seller, in the end, again, can choose the best offer for him. And that means as well, it takes into account the total offers that you received, but again, also all conditions that apply. Not only the price, but also all other conditions that apply. And then, yeah, he decides who will be the lucky buyer, the lucky owner of the house going forward. As you see over here, here a first bidder has the chance to make two offers, and that can be interesting, of course, the reason also to make maybe a fast offer. The last bidding system that we see, and that's something that evolved more recently, also due to the fact that we had some, let's say some problems in the market where at a certain moment people said the market is not totally transparent, and we don't all have the same chances in the market. So we saw two things happening over there. The first option, as you see, is the auction option, where the biddings are transparent during the auction. What we have to say is that the biddings are transparent on the price. That is true. You cannot always see all conditions of that offer as well. So it's transparent until a certain level, but it's not 100% transparent as well. And then you have the second option that also is now introduced and will be used also by some associations. That's the online registration or online bidding system, where the bids are not totally transparent, but where there is a clear registration in a register, and where you can have a look afterwards on the bids that were made on that specific property. Yeah. As I said, the new systems, they try to make the process very transparent. Some transparency over there, also with the auctions, is guaranteed, but not for 100%. As I said, again, the seller can still choose also to go with a lower offer with better conditions. So that stays the same. And to be honest, some info can still be leaked by the selling agent who have access to the systems during the total process. So to say that this is like 100% watertight, that is not the case. Yeah. The good thing is, of course, there is a registration of the offer. So if there is some discussion afterwards, then you can find some more information maybe than you can find on today. These are the different systems that apply. Of course, it can also be that there is no specific inschrijving, the Amsterdam system doesn't apply, or there is no online bidding, and people just go into negotiation. The seller and the buyer go into negotiation about the property. That's possible as well. These systems we saw a lot until now. Online bidding, we see that it's getting introduced now, and it's likely that it will be used a little bit more, but still a normal negotiation is possible as well. And then I like to give you some standard basic information as well. If you enter the market, you know existing new builds now, you know how the bidding system will go. But then, of course, you like a property, a specific property. We here have an example of the Wilhelminastraat in Amsterdam. We are going to look at that property, and we see that it's listed at an asking price of 475,000 euros. We make our homework, we look at the references, and we see that the value of the property is 520,000 euros. And then we, in the end, make a good bid, and we purchase the property at 543,250 euros. What we see over here that, of course, there is a difference between the purchase price and the asking price. There is also a difference between the purchase price and the value. Why do I state this that clear? Because I call it the 1, 2, 3. If people are going to look at the difference between the purchase price and the asking price, we see a difference of almost 70,000 euros, 68,250 to be clear. And then if we are going to look at the purchase price and the value, we see that this difference is not 70,000, but only 23,250 euros. Yeah. If you then speak, like people always say, yes, I need to overbid in the market. How much did you overbid? Then a lot of people take into account the difference between the purchase price and the asking price. And over here, that's 70,000 almost, 14.5%. Of course, that's a big amount. But if you need, or if you are more correct, and I think you need to be more correct, then you need to look at the value of the property. And the value over here is only a difference of 23,250 euros. So only a difference of 4.5% between that final purchase price and the value of the property. So what happens over here, and that is very clear, and that's also something very specific to the Dutch market, the selling agents and the seller can put the asking price at any amount they like to do. Yeah. So here they put it at 475,000 and not at 520,000 euros, which would be normal because that is the value of the property. And as a result, of course, you need to overbid with 68,000 on the asking price. But if you're going to look in detail, then you will only overbid with 23,000 euros on the value of the property. That's also that value that is important when you have a mortgage, because that 520,000 will be the 100% that can be financed by the bank. So I think that's the most important value to have a look at. Yeah. So if you say overbidding over here, a lot of people will say I overbid it like 14.5%. If you ask me, I will say we did an overbidding of 4.5% only on this specific property. And that's also the reason I think that it is very interesting to take a buying manager at your site to have a look at that value and to know exactly that you're overbidding what is necessary, but also not too much, but also enough, of course, to make a good offer in the market and to be able to buy the property in the end. Okay, if you look at all those numbers and all that information and you say, I'm ready now to start the purchase process, but can you give me a little bit of a timeline, how that purchase process goes, where it starts and where it ends? Then we're going to have a look at it right now. Of course, it starts always with the financial advice. That's what I said before. It is very important always to be informed, to do your homework before you take the next step. So the moment that it's necessary and you don't have a lot of time, that you still are able to take the right decisions because you have the right information at your side. Of course, we can do a part of that, but the first part is the financial advice. We can always refer to some partners that we have or some contacts that we have in the market, mortgage advisors or banks. You know, there is a little bit of a difference. A bank offers their products, mortgage advisors offer the products of the total market. So sometimes it can be interesting also for expats because there are different conditions that apply. Or even that they can say, but with this bank at the moment, the interest rates are different as well, or the lowest. So it can be interesting to apply over there for a mortgage and not with the other bank that you wanted to do before. So financial advisor, very important, clear view on what is your budget. If you need a mortgage, of course, what is likely to be approved if you apply for that. And then the first step is the search that you will do. You have a lot of platforms in the Netherlands, but the most important is Funda. It is what it is. You have some other platforms like you also have the social media of a lot of brokers for a certain area. You will see that some specific brokers will show already some houses even before they put it on Funda. We can help you as well. Of course, we receive also from time to time some houses that are shared with us via our network. And of course, we can share them with you as well. But the first thing you need to do over there is subscribe with Funda. And then, of course, also tell us the specific conditions that you like in a house. And then we will help you in that search, of course. The next step is to go to the viewings. If you want us to be there with you, we can do that. If you say that is not necessary, we can also offer you a service where you can do that just alone, the search and the viewings. and then after that we come into the picture. But of course, if we can assist you in the viewings, we can benchmark the property a little bit with the market and give you also some points of attention if you compare that specific property with other properties in the market. The next step is very important, I need to say, is the due diligence on the documents on the property. So if you like a property, you will receive from the selling agent a lot of files, a lot of documents. And those documents are often in Dutch, of course, but you need to review them. First, you need to see, did I receive all information? If there is information missing, okay, what is going on and why didn't I receive that specific document? Also, of course, into detail into the content of those documents. What did I receive? What is missing? Or maybe what is a little bit strange if we look at apartments and we see that there is something going on with the budget of the VVE, that is called the Association of Co-Owners. We will say, watch out, because there are some works that are budgeted in the maintenance budget, but we see there are no savings in that VVE. Yeah, it can also be a legal thing about permits, or it can be a technical issue in the vragenlijst, for example. All can be different topics to say to you, watch out, red flag, be careful on this property. And then the next step is the estimation of the value. What I said before, we are an approved appraiser over here, certified appraiser. But what we will do over here in the process is not to charge you already for a report, an appraisal report. What we will do is just to estimate the value already, because of course you want to make an offer and you need to know what is the value of that property. Why don't we make an official report already? Because of course you need to pay for that report. A report is around 750 euros, can be a little bit more expensive, but mostly starting around 750 euros. And of course, if you need to pay every time 750 euros, but then you don't win the offer or you don't want to go forward with the property, yeah, then it's a big cost, of course, and you like to use that amount for the purchase and maybe to do some finishing in the house afterwards. Yeah, but we do the estimation of the value like an appraiser would do. The only thing is we don't make a report. We will just share that with you, based on the references that we used. And then based on all that documentation, the information that you received from us, and also the estimated value, we will draft the offer together with you. And in that offer, of course, we will put the purchase price, but we will also put some other conditions in there. Two main conditions will be, if you like to put your offer conditional to a financing clause, that you need to receive approval on your mortgage. In a market like last summer, it was not possible or almost not possible to buy with a financial clause in your offer. Today, that is changing again because of interest rates and the mortgages. We see even that some people, they make the offer conditional to selling their other house first. Even that is again happening in the market. So that's something we will discuss case by case, but that's very important, that financial clause in your offer. Also because, I will come to that in a minute, but if you don't receive the approval on your mortgage, it can be that you need to pay a penalty, and of course you want to avoid that. The second thing is a technical inspection. You can decide to do that, yes or no. It's up to you if you want to do that or you want to take it out. We strongly advise most of the times to have it in, but if it's like, almost a new building and maybe you have some technical expertise as well, then it's not necessary, of course. Other things that we will add in there is, of course, the expected date of transfer. Maybe you take over some movables, yes or no. How long do you want to make that offer on the property? Maybe you put the deadline in there yourself. You always also put some personal information in there. Can be interesting when two offers are very close. So all those kind of things. We draft the offer together with you, and then we will sell it to we will send it to the selling agent in your name. Why do we do that? Because a selling agent will feel, and for sure in the Dutch market that is important, will feel that the offer is coming from a buying manager, and they know that we did our homework. We did more than maybe one transaction already with them, and they know how we work, and they feel comfortable with your offer. As a result, they will also inform their client, the seller, about it, and it is more likely that your offer will be accepted. Yeah. Of course, if you want us to put you in CC or things like that, we can always do that. That's more a practical thing. We hope, of course, that your offer is accepted. Then the next step will be to sign the purchase contract. But first, we have the experts that come into place. We have two experts that will come to the property. It's, of course, the mortgage appraiser is that certified appraiser that will make an appraisal report and that you need, otherwise you will not be able to apply for a mortgage. And then, as I said, depending on the offer, if you put it in and you like to have a technical expertise as well, then the technical expert will also come to the property. If we receive those two reports, then you can sign the purchase contract. Sometimes it's a little bit at the same moment that you have the experts coming to place, and at the moment you're already busy signing the purchase contract. The good thing is that we have 3 days after signing of the purchase contract where you have a cooling off period. Yeah, in that period you can still say, oh, I slept over it, or now I received the technical report and I don't really like it. What I see over here, a lot of maintenance or things that I didn't expect. Then you can still back out of the contract. Yeah, you were able to do that. The seller is not able to do that anymore after signing of the purchase contract, but you as a buyer are able to do that. 3 days cooling off period, so that's very important. After that, you cannot back out of the contract anymore. You cannot cancel the contract. If you do that, you will need to pay a fine or a penalty, and that is an amount of 10% of the purchase price, so quite important. Yeah, that's also why we put the financing clause in there, because after those 3 days, you cannot cancel the contract anymore. Not even when your mortgage is not approved, unless, of course, you put that specific clause in there that when the mortgage is not approved, you are able to cancel the contract. Of course, you will need to deliver some papers from the bank to the seller, but then you don't need to pay any penalty. Yeah, let's hope it doesn't come to that. You're happy with the experts, you're happy with the property, and then together with the signed purchase agreement by all parties and the appraisal report, you can apply for the mortgage. So that's very good. You also receive then depends a little bit. If you go to the bank, it takes a little bit longer, 4 to 6 weeks. If you go to a mortgage advisor, often they can do it faster, 2 to 4 weeks. You will receive the mortgage approval. And then you need to pay your deposit 1 week later. You don't pay it to the seller, but you pay it to the notary. That's safe as well, because you still need to sign the transfer deed. You will receive the final settlement of the notary. That's the total amount you need to pay. It's the purchase price. It's all of the costs, all of the purchase costs. Deducted from that, maybe the deposit that you made with your own savings already. And then, of course, the balance will be paid or with your own savings or with the mortgage that you received. Yeah. And then the last step to take is to sign the transfer deed. Just before we do that, before we go to the notary, we will have the final inspection. And in that final inspection, it's not the same as a technical inspection, but we will just go around with the property. We will do that together with you and with the seller or the selling agent. And then we will see that the house is totally empty, because that is expected unless you took over some movables, of course. We will also go around to see that everything is still working. For example, one of my colleagues, they bought a property and it was with a closed kitchen, and then they came in to that property at the day of transfer, to say. And then the seller had decided between signing of the purchase contract and doing the transfer deed, or signing the transfer deed, to open the kitchen, to open the wall over there. It was a little bit strange. The good thing was that, the buyers, they liked it because they wanted to do the same. So that was a good thing. But yeah, the moment that it is not an idea to do that, we can still see that at the morning of the final inspection. Let's hope everything is okay. Then we can go to the notary. You sign the transfer deed together with the seller, and then you're the official owner, the legal owner of the property. You will receive the keys and you can use the property for your own use. What is important still to mention is the liability of the seller. If there is something wrong with the property, you never know. Let's hope it doesn't happen. Let's hope as well, when we do a technical inspection, that those chances are very limited. But still, it can happen. Sometimes we had some, there is one case, it was not in our portfolio, but it's well known in the legal cases that happened. There was some fungus in the basement of a house. And at a certain moment, the buyer goes to the court, but they waited a little bit longer. They waited like 6 months or something like that. And the court said, yes, I see that there is fungus at the moment, but we cannot see at the moment if the fungus was there at the moment that the seller sold the property to you, or it only happened like a long time after that. And that's what the reason for that is you waited too long to tell me. So you have around a period, they always estimate, do it between the moment that you sign the transfer deed and 2 months, the latest after. And then it is very likely that it will be the responsibility of the seller. If you wait longer, then yeah, you have more chance that you will not be able to recuperate anything with the seller anymore. Okay, that is the total process. You will ask me now, okay, and how long does it take? Of course, it depends. There are some parts of the process that are specific, so it depends in every specific case. To be defined how long you're searching and viewing properties and really like to go forward making an offer. We make the offer after the viewings. That is often on a very short period. It's 1 to 3 days that you need to take into account. Then we go forward with signing the purchase contract. In between the experts come, but even that, after the offer is accepted, signing purchase contract, it's a maximum of 2 weeks. Then we go forward, of course, with the mortgage approval, as I said, depending with a bank, a mortgage advisor, but it can take up to 6 weeks at that time. 1 week to pay the deposit, 2 weeks to have the final settlement. And then, you are able to go to the notary and to sign the transfer deed. In total, you need to take into account at least 3 months. It can be a little bit longer, depending on every step of the way. And even if we saw if the market was difficult, it could be with some people that they were searching for 8 months or even. The next step that we're going to discuss is that purchase process. I'm going to go a little bit more in detail together with you. And what we see over here is that, as I said before, it is very important to start with the first step and to go really step by step. So the first step is to take some financial advice. You need to know what is your budget, so you are able exactly to know how far you can go with defining purchase price. And it's even before you take contact with us as a buying manager, you need to know that totally in advance. So financial advice, do that as step 1. You can go to your bank. They can tell you a lot about getting a mortgage, of course, if you need a mortgage. Or otherwise, you go to a mortgage advisor, and of course, a mortgage advisor will give you an overview of the total market of all the different banks or even other financial institutions that can provide you with a mortgage, can finance your purchase. After that, the next step is to start with the search. Depending on the specific package that you take, we can help you with that. Often people say for the search itself, I know my way. I know how to go on Funda, for example. That's the biggest platform in the Netherlands. But I also can search on the social media or the different selling managers or selling agents that are active in a certain location, in a certain region. And if it's really necessary, of course, we can also assist you with some new listings that we receive from our network or within our network. Of course, we will always share with you. The search, that's important, but then the next step is maybe even more important. It's the viewing of the properties that you like. There we can go together with you as well again. Or you say, even that, I'm totally fine with that. I bought a lot of places or houses already in the meantime, and I don't need your assistance over there. The positive point, of course, of taking us together with you to the viewings can be that we can benchmark a little bit with the Dutch market. Maybe that is something that is a little bit new for you, or of course, we see a lot of houses, so we have a little bit more experience with. But again, you are free to take us with you, yes or no. It is important, of course, to see if all pictures that were listed, that they match with reality. And then after that, if you did a viewing, you really like that property, you say, okay, I want to go forward and I consider making an offer. Then the first step is to do due diligence on all documents that you will receive. The selling agents will provide you with a lot of documents. It is over financial information, legal information to technical stuff. Also with VVE or Association of Co-owners, you will receive a lot of information about that. And it's important to see that, one, you received all information. If not, what is the reason? And of course, if there are some red flags also to know exactly what is your risk, or is there a reason that you can say, oh, I can live with it in this specific case. Maybe it is not, and then you need to reconsider if you want to make an offer. Maybe just step out of the process for this property. The second thing is the estimation of the value. It is not like that you make like an official report of the value of every property that you're looking at. Of course, that has to do with the fact that a report like that has a price or a cost around 750 euros. If you need to pay 750 euros for every report that you receive, and you need to go to look, 3 to 5 to 10 possible houses, then you will pay a lot of money, and you like to put that money, of course, in the purchase of your house or the finishing of your house. So we're not going to do that, but we will make an estimation already for you. We do a little bit the same exercise as an appraiser would do. We are going to look at references, and then we will tell you all totally transparent, of course, what we believe is the value of the house you're looking at and why we come to that specific number. That is important because based on that due diligence, you did really the review of all the documentation, so you know the property. The second thing is you know the value of the property, so that means in total you can consider making an offer, yes or no. And if you say, yes, I want to make an offer, then we will draw that together with you. Important, as I said before, is to put in there the price that you like to put in there, but also some other conditions that apply, like a financial clause, a technical clause, the movables you want to take over, the transfer date, and maybe a deadline also for your offer. We add also some additional information like mortgage advisors papers or information or letters where it is likely mentioned that it is likely that you will receive that mortgage, and also a client profile that can help maybe to work a little bit on the emotion of the seller as well when some offers are close to each other. And then let's hope that your offer is accepted. We send it over to the seller because it gives a little bit of comfort to the seller and to the selling agent as well, that we did the review of the total documentation with you. Then, of course, we have a little bit of a track record with a lot of real estate brokers in the market. So they know if we make an offer that it is a good offer and that we reviewed all the little details, and it is very likely that when they accept the offer that you will sign the purchase contract. After that, the next step is to sign the purchase contract. But if you see on the screen as well, we still have the experts that come on site. We have the technical expert, excuse me, to do the technical inspection. And we have, of course, the mortgage advisor or the mortgage appraiser who will come to make the appraisal of the value of the property. Yeah, that is very important, as that appraisal report will be done by a certified appraiser, and he will need to send that as well to the bank, which will be one of the documents that they need to be able to approve your mortgage. Yeah, so that's very important. After those experts came on site, we can sign the purchase contract. Sometimes the two processes are running simultaneously. That's also possible. The most important is that after the signing of the purchase contract, you still have a 3-day cooling off period. And of course, we like to have all information before the end of those 3 days, because then you're still able to cancel the contract without paying any penalties. After that, you will always need to pay 10% of the purchase price as a penalty, unless you have the financial clause. And that is the reason why you are not able to go forward with the purchase contract. But of course, then you need to have some official communication as well from the bank that you were not able to obtain the mortgage. Normally, you sign a purchase contract. Let's hope that you are happy with that and that everything goes well. The seller cannot back out anymore as well, so that's good. And then you apply for the mortgage. The mortgage will be approved, depending a little bit, of course, on the bank or the mortgage advisor. It will take up to 6 weeks. And then you pay the deposit. You can do that with your own savings. You can use a bank guarantee for that. That's still free to decide afterwards. You don't need to know upfront. Of course, then we receive the final settlement from the notary. He will really make the balance because he also needs to pay the total amount to all parties involved. So you have, of course, the purchase price, but also all purchase costs that are involved. And then deducted from that the deposit and maybe some payment that you do with your own savings. And the balance, of course, will always be covered by the mortgage that you received. Yeah. So that's the total amount that applies on that final settlement, and that you will receive some days upfront before signing of the transfer deed, because of course you need to transfer that amount into the account of the notary. So at the moment of signing, that he knows that everything is paid. Before we go to the notary to sign the transfer deed, one important inspection is left. It's not a technical inspection, but it's like the final inspection, as we call it. And there we will assist you together with the seller or the selling agent to go around the property to see that the property is empty, that is delivered as was discussed in the purchase contract. So without the movables, unless of course you paid for them and made an agreement on that. We will see as well that everything is still working and everything is okay, like the central heating installation, for example, but also the doors and windows. Can they open? Can they close? The water taps, is everything running as it should? Important because it can happen always that with moving out, the seller breaks something. If you see that at that moment in the morning, then we need to agree how to arrange that. We can make an agreement that we put still in the transfer deed. It can be that the notary says, okay, I will keep like 5,000 euros in the account until the moment that something that was broken by moving out is replaced, and then I only transfer the rest of the amount to the seller. So important to do that final inspection for you to have a little bit of confidence that everything is okay and that everything is still the same as the property that you fell in love with and that you bought based on the purchase contract. And then we have the liability of the seller that runs until almost 2 months after signing of the transfer deed. Very important over there is when you see something that you didn't know, and that's important, of course, and you believe that the seller should have known before, that you take action as soon as possible. Yeah? If you take too long, it is possible that the judge or the court will say, you waited too long and I'm not sure if the seller knew before. It can also be that everything happened afterwards and the seller was totally not aware of that. So maybe you waited too long. So yeah, the moment that you see something, take action. And it is expected that if you do that within the 2 months, that it is likely the seller will still be kept responsible for that problem. If you wait longer, then it gets more and more difficult to prove that it's the responsibility of the seller. And yeah, as a result, you will have to pay the damage or repair the damage on your own costs, of course. If we go to see at the total process, then we see that, yeah, the search and the viewings depends a little bit how fast you are yourself or how fast you really find something that you really like and that ticks all the boxes and that you see this is the property we like to live in. So let's make a nice offer. The due diligence estimation of the value, that goes quite fast because a lot of times we only have like some days to make the offer. So count sometimes only 1 day, sometimes 3 days, maybe a little bit longer, but don't count on that. It will go fast. The experts that come into place, they will come between acceptance of the offer and signing of the purchase contract. Within 2 weeks, the purchase contract normally will be signed. And then we have 6 weeks until mortgage is approved. It can be a little bit faster depending on the party that you use. 1 week to pay the deposit, maybe deliver a bank guarantee, that's also possible. And then we have 2 weeks for the final settlement to receive and going forward with signing of the transfer deed. Of course, that depends also on the files. It's a little bit more complicated, then the notary will use a little bit more time. In total, we can say that you need around 3 months. That's the fastest to buy a property. It can also take a little bit longer. Some people search for 8 months, some people even a little bit longer than that. But normally between 3 months as the fastest, maybe 6 months, it's more common, and around 8-9 months, you should be able to find something. Of course, it always depends also on your budget and the wishes that you have, but that's a little bit a guideline that you can follow. How to be now very successful? I have 3 main tips over here, yeah, I discussed a lot of them already during the webinar before. So the budget is very important. So give always priority to that budget. Talk to your bank or your mortgage advisor. Calculate your own savings. Calculate also the total cost of a purchase, also including the purchase costs. You need to know everything and to have a clear view on your budget, what you're able to spend at a property that you really like. Do your homework. That's something, of course, you can do yourself, but we are here and we are willing to assist with that. The due diligence, very important to look at all information of the property, but also the estimation of the value. As I said before, that estimation is not a taxation or an official valuation, but it is yeah, done in the same way. And as a result, you will have a clear view as well on the value that is likely to be the value of the property that you're looking at. And then as a result, you are able to finance with a mortgage up to 100%. And then the last thing I discussed already as well in the process, make a good offer. And that's something we will help you with as well. We will draft it together with you, but the price is important. The conditions are important. A personal touch, always important as well. And as I said, some support. If you go to the experts and the purchase costs, as I said, you need to finance the property, but you will also need to finance all the costs that are involved. And that is, of course, the transfer tax. We come to that in a moment, but we also have some experts you will need to pay. The mortgage advisor you need to pay, the independent mortgage advisor, but also with the bank, they will charge you an administrative fee for that. So take it into account. The realtor, of course, it can us or somebody else if you like to go forward with a buying manager, but you will need to pay them as well. We come to that in a minute. You have the technical expert. It depends a little on yeah, the specific party, but take into account around 435 euros, something like that, to have a technical report. You have the appraiser, as I said before, around 750 euros, can be a little bit more depending really on yeah, the specific elements that need to be calculated in your appraisal report. If it's, for example, a renovation that needs to be done as well, then it will be a little bit more expensive than if you do it without. You have the notary. He will help you with the transfer deed. That is an obligation. He will help you as well with the mortgage deed. That's also an obligation. And he will charge also for a translator normally if you don't speak Dutch that well as a native Dutch person, but also if you don't really understand the total of the content of the contract or the transfer deed, then he will ask you to have a translator at the table as well. And then we have, of course, as I said before, we have the transfer taxes. So you need to take them into account as well. It's around 2% normally standard if you go to live in the property yourself. Altogether, take into account around 5-6% of the total purchase price. That will be the extra costs that you need to pay. And at the moment, you're not able to yeah, have those costs covered by a mortgage. So you will need to have those costs in savings. That's very important before you step into the process that you calculate them. Of course, some of those costs are also tax deductible in the sense that you can deduct them from your salary before that get taxed on a yearly basis. So always inform yourself about it. And these are all costs that are related to the mortgage that will be costs that you can deduct from your income. Yeah. That's it about purchase cost and experts. So very important to take that into account. And then we have one specific element as well in the Netherlands that is called NHG. And the NHG is the National Mortgage Guarantee, or of Nationale Hypotheekgarantie, as we say in Dutch. That is a kind of insurance to pay off the mortgage. So you will be insured when you're not able to pay the mortgage yourself anymore, that the insurance company will do that. You will also have the right to have a lower interest rate. They will offer you a lower interest rate than the normal interest rate into the market. And it can be up to 106% if you also finance some energy improvement on your property. So that's important. Of course, the property needs to be your main residence. You need to have a permanent resident permit. You have to have a fixed contract, but that is not always necessary. So even without a fixed contract, you can always try to apply for it. And you can also go for the renovation I stated before. The maximum amount is 355,000 euros as a purchase price. But if you calculate that extra renovation or improvements also on the house, then it can go to 376,300 euros. So important to have a look at that. Yeah, also the cost of the 6% extra, even the interest on that, they are also deductible. If you want to have some more information about it, then go to nhg.nl because there you can find all information on this specific topic, but always interesting to have a look at it. The only thing you need to take into account that at the beginning, as I said in the last line, because maybe that was not clear, but you will have to pay 6% of the mortgage that you apply for as a cost and be able to have the positive benefits of this NHG. Then we come to the one of the latest topics, and that is also very important. Let's talk about financing a little bit. Why do we do that? Yeah, of course, as I said before, you need to know your budget. And we see that there is a lot of things going on in the mortgage world, to say, in the finance world, there is a lot of change. You can see this clearly on the graph of the Hypotheker. I have to say that if depending on the source that you use, you will see a little bit of different numbers, but the trend is there and you know a little bit what percentage to think of when you want to close a mortgage yourself. We see here with the Hypotheker the percentage rate on a 10-year fixed or 5-year fixed mortgage. And what we see clear on the graph is that the interest rates went down clearly between 1984 and today. But since beginning of 2022, it's also clear that they are going up and going up very, very fast. This means that on today, almost we are at a level of around 2005 or 2015, but that's a little bit the level where we are on today in 2022. And that means that we are on average almost at 4%. So that is important because there are also some experts that define that if we go over that 4%, that it is likely it will have a clear impact on prices. I have to say, because we are almost at 4%, we also see that. And as I explained before, we see that we somewhere cap the prices at the moment. They stay stable in the market. And that is a clear result of that change in mortgage rates. And then we have here also the comparison for you to see what happens if you take NHG or you don't. You see, of course, that with NHG, you have quite a lower interest rate that applies. Here we have Van Brugge Adviesgroep that shared this specific graph. And you see there, if you take a 20-year fixed and you don't take NHG, then we come from around 1.8%, and that was last year in 2021. Until now, we go up until 3.8%. So that's a little bit the jump that we make here for a 20-year fixed. But that's in general, of course, you see that all different interest rates, depending, of course, on the term of your mortgage and the period that you fix your interest rate, that you see the difference in the interest rates in specific that apply. But it is clear they are going up, and they went up very fast since now in 2022. We need to see if this continues in the rest of the year. That's not totally sure, but of course they have already an impact on the market, and it is unlikely that they will drop tomorrow. Of course, nobody expected as well that they would go up that fast. So follow up on the market every day. That's what we do as well. Because you never know what is going to happen tomorrow, of course. And that's something as well that I like to stress over here. Follow the news, and that's what we see that was shared as well by Hypotheker again, is that they say, okay, we see that on average in 2021 Q2 we had mortgage amount of 326,000. It didn't happen a lot in history that we see that the average amount went down, but it happened in Q2 2022. The demand for a mortgage on average went down to 322 compared to that 326. And as a result, of course, it is a question mark, but maybe it's an exclamation mark that, yeah, there is a cooling off of the housing market. So prices are stabilizing. That is clear, and there is no discussion about that. Again, what I said, we are a realtor, but not a financial expert. So know your budget, very important. When you purchase the house, when you renovate the house, as I said before, it also has an impact on your appraisal. So if you want to do the both, then double check what you need to apply for a mortgage on those both topics. Do it before you search. Do it also before you make an offer. Why do I say that? I told you before, some people are looking like not only for 3 months, but 6 months or even longer. If they took contact with their mortgage advisor like 6 months ago, then you could see on the graphs there was another interest rate that applied than it does on Tuesday. So if you want to know exactly what you can use as the amount that you will able to finance as a mortgage, then you need to double check before making the offer. Of course, as I said before as well, existing market and the new build market, but an offer from the bank has also a certain period that it's valid. After that, you will have to apply again, and new conditions can apply, of course. So important when you're looking for a new build, take that into account. But also if you offer for a house and the transfer date is later than 6 months after sign of the purchase contract, then it is also important to double check with your bank what will happen then, because they need prolong the validity of that offer that they made for the mortgage with a little bit of days, months, or weeks, depending on the specific situation, to be able to guarantee that offer on the day of transfer. Yeah. So check. Very important, your budget. I repeated it a lot of times, but it's also because it's very important. And in today's market, it's even more important than last year. And then I come to what I said before, our services and our fees. What we can offer you is an all-in package. That means that, as I said, we do everything, including the search. You say, I don't want to follow up on everything, so you can do that. Then you need to take into account the fee that we charge for that will be around 4,800 euros, including VAT. And we do that within a 30-minute drive from Amsterdam. We will also do the viewings together with you and really assist in the total process that we explained before. If you say, yeah, that search, that's something I can do myself. I look every day at Funda, or I somewhere subscribe to that newsletter. I also receive information from other brokers on social media or in another way, also with newsletters, and I can find and search a little bit myself. Then that's totally fine. Then we offer you not the all-in, but the full service. That means we help you in the total process, starting with the viewings until you sign the transfer deed with the notary. Of course, at that moment, we don't do the search, and our fee will be a little bit different. We will charge around 4,000 euros, including VAT for that. Also, as I said before, it will be with a 30-minute drive from Amsterdam. Yeah. This is the popular service that people use, but yeah, it can also be that you say, I don't need all of those elements. I only need basic service. It's only for one property in specific, because I really want to make an offer on that property that I found myself and that I did the viewings already, and I want you to help me with it. Or you say, yes, I want to do that all over the Netherlands, and I know it. You will not follow in the total of the Netherlands to every viewing. But that's normal for me because I bought some properties before, and I just want you to help in the due diligence, in the valuation, in also the check on the legal contracts, and all other things that are related to the process, like booking the experts and all those kind of things. Then we can help you with that all over the Netherlands, depending a little bit on the case, how difficult it is, but it will be around 2,500, 2,900 euros, including VAT, depending on the specifics of the file that you're looking at. So then you know what we can offer you. We can offer an all-in, we can offer you the full package, or we can offer just a basic package. It's up to you to decide, of course. Always important to mention that booking the experts, we can do that for you, but it's always a separate fee. So the technical expert, the appraiser or the notary, we will help you if you like us to do that, to give some references, but it's always up to you to pay that extra to the fee that you will pay to us. And then we come to the Q&A, and I see in the chat that we have some questions over here. So I start with the first one. I'm looking at the other screen. Can I buy a property with a permanent contract? That is the first question that I received. I can tell you that that is possible. Of course, always double check with your mortgage advisor or your bank, but often it is no problem if you have an income, then that is okay for the bank as well. If you can pay what you need to pay, then that is okay. Of course, they will have a look at your salary and what is the likeliness that it will continue. For that, often they will ask for a werkgeversverklaring, they call it in Dutch. So it's like a document that you receive from your employer, where they will mention that it is very likely that your contract will be prolonged. It is not legally binding for your employer, but it is important for the bank, because based on that, they are more open to approve your specific demand for the mortgage than if you don't have that document. Even with some banks, they will not even start looking at your file if you don't have that document. So, but it is possible, even without a permanent contract, to buy a property. And then the second question that I see over here, and I believe it's quite important, so I will repeat it again, but the question is, will prices drop going forward? And that's, of course, that's very interesting, that question. I cannot give a clear answer to that, let's be honest. I don't have a glass bowl myself as well. I need to be open about that. But what we see is two things, as I explained before, and when we do the market drivers as well, we see that there is a lack of offer in the market. That is changing a little bit with existing properties as some properties come to the market, but in general, we need 300,000 extra houses on today for the demand, and we expect within this and 10 years, we need 1 million houses. So there is a bigger demand than the offer in the market that pushes the prices up. Of course, we see as well that the financing is getting more expensive, and that's something that pushes the prices down. That is clear. On today, those two balance out. So what we see for 2022 is that we see just a cap on the prices. They don't go up anymore, or not that fast up. It depends also on the properties. If a property is totally fine and totally renovated, you don't need to do anything anymore. We still see that people want to pay for that. If you have a house with a lot of work, then we see that, people are a little bit more hesitant. But in general, we have a cap on the prices. Also, ABN AMRO did some research about it, and it is likely that, this year, of course, we will not have the same increase anymore as was expected at the beginning of the year. For next year, also, they see the market is going to slow down. They expect to have a little growth, maybe some percent, 1-2%, but of course, not the big jumps anymore. But until now, nobody is expecting as well that the prices will drop. What is important to mention in that context is that there is a professor in TU Delft, and he made a little bit of calculation, and he says, based on all the information that I have, I believe that if we go to an interest rate that is around 5%, so if we go above 4% and towards 5%, then it is likely that it will have an impact on the prices. The prices will go down a little bit. So that is what we can say on today. On today, we see a cap in the market. We don't see some elements immediately that prices will drop. Of course, if interest rates keep on rising, and if that rise goes as fast as it went beginning of this year, then for sure there will be an impact. But on today, we just see that there is a cap on the prices. Okay, and I'm trying to see if we have a third and last question maybe. Yeah, the question as well. What if I move abroad and can I rent out my property just like that? That's something I didn't discuss in detail, but it's important to know that you have a residential loan or you have a buy-to-let mortgage. And if you have a residential loan, then normally the bank doesn't allow you to rent out the property because they say there is a lot of risk that the property is losing a little bit of value because it's not maintained as an owner would do with his own property. So they believe that the tenant is not that careful and that it needs more maintenance. So that means that if you have a residential loan, you cannot just have a lease contract just like that. If you do that, then you need to change to a buy-to-let mortgage, and then they will charge you a higher interest rate. But also you will not be able to have a mortgage of 100%. It will be likely that it's only with a maximum of 70%. Yeah. So that is very important. When you rent it out, normally you cannot just do it like that. There will be some conditions that apply mainly from the bank. What is also important, and I believe I mentioned that before, is in some municipalities as well. If you have a house and you buy it, you need to live in that property yourself. In Amsterdam, that applies as well. It will be related to the WZ value. That is when it's just above 500,000 euros, then that is not enough just to rent it out. Then they will say you need to go to live in the property yourself first at a minimum of 4 years. Yeah. So I'm sorry, you can try to rent it out, but that's not always possible. The good thing is, of course, you can keep the house yourself and just keep it as a second home. It's totally possible, and then you just pay the loan. If you do that, then yeah, nothing changes. Yeah, what will change, of course, is your fiscality and all the rules that apply on that. You will not be able to deduct maybe the interest rate anymore from your salary if you are falling under the fiscal system of another country than the Netherlands. So that is important. And then the last thing is, of course, you can say, okay, I'm moving now and I'm going to sell my property. And then I explained before that the good thing is that in the Netherlands, the overvalue that you have on the house will not be taxed. So you use the total of that amount to buy something else. And then I understand in that situation, it will not be in the Netherlands, but somewhere else. But you have then that overvalue as a net fit on the house that you sold. So that's a good thing. Okay, I believe that were the most important questions, and that all other questions were answered already during our webinar. I'd like to thank you all to follow today. As said, we will register and we will also share this with you by email, but also put it on our website or YouTube channel. If you want to take contact, you can find my contact details over here. Of course, they will also be shared in the email that you receive, in the communication that you will receive. And if you take contact with us, then also mention the code that I mentioned over here, AMSVDD0707. If you do that, then it is likely that we can offer you a little bit of better conditions on the services or on the package that yeah, you decide to contract in the end. Yeah. So I all like to thank you to follow the webinar on today. Also, if you're interested in new builds, as I said before, follow our social media or our agenda on the website, because it will be mentioned over there as well. We will have a separate webinar for that. And if you like to review this webinar or maybe have some more information on specific cities or in general follow an update from time to time, then feel free to follow one of the other webinars that we organize as well. We do it almost every month. It can be even that when we have a lot of information that we will do it every 2 weeks. So follow our channels and then you will see when we organize the next one. For now, I'd like to thank you all, and hopefully I speak to you soon, because I'm looking forward to help you, of course, in finding a nice and to settle in the Netherlands. Thank you for now, and love to speak to you later. Bye-bye.